We all know about Rosa Parks and her refusal to give up her seat to a white passenger on that fateful December day in 1955, Montgomery, Alabama. And after digging a little deeper, you may also know that Parks wasn't the first person to resist bus segregation in Alabama. In fact, the very first video on this channel features 15-year-old Claudette Colvin, who did the very same thing in Montgomery, Alabama, 9 months before Rosa Parks. However, the NAACP believed that Rosa Parks was the best candidate for a successful court challenge. But did you know that 101 years before Claudette and Rosa, Elizabeth Jennings Graham's act of civil disobedience led to the eventual desegregation of all New York City transit systems? Let's dive a little deeper into her story. Here's a description read from the book 50 American Revolutions You're Not Supposed to Know, Reclaiming American Patriotism by Mikey Z. On July 16, 1854, Elizabeth Lizzie Jennings, a 24-year-old school teacher, setting out to fulfill her duties as an organist at the First Colored Congregational Church on 6th Street and 2nd Avenue, faithfully waited for the bus, which back then was a large horse-drawn carriage. For Black New Yorkers like Jennings, it wasn't that simple. Pre-Civil War Manhattan may have been home to the nation's largest African-American population, and New York's Black residents may have paid taxes and owned property. But riding the bus with white people? Well, that was a different story. Some buses bore large colored persons allowed signs, while all other buses, those without the sign, were governed by a rather arbitrary system of passenger choice. In other words, it was subject to the driver's discretion. Lizzie Jennings opted for a bus without the colored persons allowed sign. The New York Tribune describes what happened next. She got upon one of the company's cars on the Sabbath to ride to church. The conductor undertook to get her off, first alleging the car was full. When that was shown to be false, he pretended the other passengers were displeased at her presence. But when she insisted on her rights, he took hold of her by force to expel her. She resisted. This would not be the end of it. Jennings was well connected. You see, Elizabeth's father, Thomas L. Jennings, was an African-American inventor, tradesman, entrepreneur, and abolitionist in New York City. In fact, he is the first African-American patent holder in history. He was granted the patent in 1821 for his novel method of dry cleaning. His invention, combined with his business expertise, yielded a significant personal fortune, which he then reinvested into the abolitionist movement. Not satisfied with the massive rally that took place the following day at her church, Elizabeth Jennings hired the law firm of Culver, Parker, and Arthur and took the 3rd Avenue Railway Company to court. In a classic Who Knew situation, Jennings was represented by a 24-year-old lawyer named Chester A. Arthur, who would go on to become the 21st President of the United States upon the death of James A. Garfield in 1881. In early 1855, Judge William Rockwell of the Brooklyn Circuit Court ruled in Elizabeth's favor. The jury awarded Jennings damages in the amount of $250, equivalent to $6,900 in 2020, as well as $22.50 in costs. The next day, the 3rd Avenue Railway Company ordered its cars desegregated. By 1860, all of the city's street rail cars were desegregated. And that is the amazing Black history of Elizabeth Jennings Graham. Subscribe, like, share, and tune in next week for another episode of Amazing Black History. Thank you for your time and have a great day. It took place following a rally that took place. In a classic Who Knew situation, Jennings was represented by In a classic Who Knew, come on, man. Judge William Rockwell of the Brooklyn Circuit, fart, balls. In early 1855, Judge William Rockwell of the Brooklyn Circuit Court ruled in, ruled in the Elizabeth, what is this? Subscribe, like, share, and tune in next week for another episode of Amazing Black History. Thank you for your time and have a great day.